Hey all. So yesterday I made a post about this bass fuzz here, which I actually designed this yesterday and then built the prototype yesterday and posted it. Normally I spend, forever on a design before I build a prototype or before I even think it's ready for someone else to hear. Um, I there's times I spend years on stuff. Now, to be fair, the circuit that's in this, the idea for it, I already had, sort of. Um, I was actually working on my breadboard, which is right here. Well, I have many breadboards, but there's one right here, and I was working on another circuit, and I remembered many years ago I modded this circuit and got this like interesting like filter wah auto wah kind of effect, and I can't find like anything written down about it, like a schematic or values or anything like that, but I remember the basic idea. And so I thought about it, and I'm like, okay, well, now I have to see if I can come up with something that will do, like, see if I can know what the circuit was and see if I can get it to do that thing that it did. Um, and I didn't, but in the process, I realized I came up with this bass fuzz. It's like, it's really simple too. It's a single transistor amplifier that's, pushed into distortion, but it's kind of like, a rough, ugly distortion, which of course can be great and good, um, but what transforms it into this unique fuzzed tone rather than just like a messed up overdrive or whatever. I mean, it's kind of an overdrive, whatever. Um, is I t- by just adding a handful of components, I turn it into sort of, I sort of turn it into a resonant low pass filter, and using like a diode as a variable resistor in a way, it your attack kind of sweeps the cutoff frequency in a way, but the result is the the filter part of it is where the the timbre and the texture of the fuzz come in. Like, if you just remove those few components that make it more of a filter, like a twin T filter almost, except it's just one T. Um, it doesn't sound all that great, and it sounds totally different too. Um, so anyway, I was like experimenting with it, and I was like, oh man, this kind of reminds me of, Felix Pappalardi's bass sound, especially like on the live recordings where it's just like, thundering through like Sun 2000 S's or whatever. Um, and he actually had his, I read, I am really into him and his playing, but there was a time I was just obsessed with him. It's kind of when I first really got into mountain, like, hardcore. Um, but I read something about someone saying that he had his amp. Somebody modified his amp, um, which I guess, if you hear those recordings, like, it sounds like he's playing through a fuzz, but he's not. He's just, playing through, like I said, a Sun. I think they usually were like 200 S's. It's like the big brother of the 2000 S's, which is the big brother of the 200 S. Um, anyway, and it's funny because now that I'm thinking about this, I started Mountain King, and I'm not going to go into this too much, this tangent too, but I started it after when I started playing bass for a brief period of time. I went from electronics to bass, and just was playing kind of heavy Cream, Sabbath kind of bass stuff, and also listening to Felix Pappalardi and Mountain, and just like his amazing bass lines and everything. And I really, that sound, I was like, I want, like, it's, that had something to do with me actually forming Mountain King, because I was looking for a bass fuzz and a bass, I really wanted something that could give me that sound, that Felix Pappalardi sound, which sounds like almost like an organ and a horn distorted, and it's crazy. And then that kind of led to, everything else, really. But after that, I've designed a ton of bass fuzzes, some of which have been put out, some of which are just, turned into something else or whatever. But, I was always like listening for that sound, that Felix Pappalardi's fuzzed out bass sound, like when I'm experimenting. That's kind of how I work. I listen for certain things, and when I'm experimenting and I start to hear that, I stop and I'm like, okay, what is doing this? Like, what's the key to this sound? And I start, trying to enhance that. Anyway, so the reason I'm doing this was just that this morning I got up and I was like thinking about the post, and I was thinking about the bass fuzz, and I was like, had some other ideas of just messing around, and I started doing that, and then I was like, maybe I should film this. Maybe somebody will find it interesting, and just kind of talk about some of the things that I'm doing and that you're hearing. Unfortunately, I don't have like multiple cameras to like show you the breadboard and me and this, and so I'm just doing it like this, and I figure I'll just talk. So here, let me see if I can get you a good shot here. So there's the circuit. There's a whole bunch of big electrolytic caps there. Yeah, so it's just a single stage transistor amplifier. And like I said, I turned it into sort of a filter type circuit as far as structurally, circuit wise. And you can hear now, I don't know if you're going to be able, that problem with doing it like this too is like you're hearing, the sound from my phone, my phone's microphone. So you're not just going to you're just not going to hear some of the things that I'm hearing. But see if I can get it to, I can do something so that you can hear that there's this, whoa, Jesus Christ. What the hell am I got like 1,000 picks, and right now none of them are in front of me. What the fuck? Oh my God. Anyway, it's not, anyway. So, let's see. That's just, clean. I'm just playing, this is just a crappy, like, Indonesian, probably, Indonesian P bass, but, if stuff sounds good with this, then it's gonna sound good with the good bass, right? And, I'm playing through this little hot tone, whatever, like mini head, like this big, that's supposed to be emulate some other well-known, super clean head. Whatever. I don't know. I generally don't care about that stuff, but I know people do, and they're always talking about it. But anyway, so let me see here. I had these switches here. There's one over here too. I can't get it. Once I, so many, when I'm designing, once I get the basic circuit put together, then I start going through different components in the circuit that, their value has a significant or not so significant effect on the sound. And I have these toggle switches wired up so I can just plug the wires from them into the breadboard, and I can switch back and forth between components. Because when you try to do that, play and plug and unplug, your brain just doesn't. You can't trust what you're hearing, because you'll say, okay, I think there's something different, and it's no, it's just those few seconds, your mind's, that sound is gone and turned into something else. Anyway, so I have these toggle switches, and I switch back and forth, and it's a lot easier a lot more convenient, a lot better to try to decide on what component. So anyway, there's this weird little squishy envelope-y thing going on, with your attack. And like I said, I don't think you're probably not going to be able to hear it. There's a resonance, I was tweaking this circuit, and it kept oscillating because it's an active filter, so it's real easy to make it start ringing. But it's the fact that it's the circuit is just overdriven to the point where it's distorted, and then the filter is at that point where it's starting to oscillate, but it's right before it's going to oscillate. And because of how the circuit's set up with there's a diode, so when you hit it, the diode opens up and kind of changes the cutoff frequency, where it would normally be a knob or some CV circuit or whatever. It's your attack, push, whatever. It's too complicated to explain. But that's where the main part of this sound in this circuit comes from, is that on the edge of oscillating filter thing going on. And it has that that thing. It doesn't exactly sound like Felix Pappalardi's bass sound, but it reminds me of it a lot, and it's so anyway, so I have some other component values, like this switch. I'm going to switch back and forth. Is pulling capacitor in and out of the filter part of the circuit. It's kind of hard to hear even with me, but it's when you're playing it, you hear it and you feel it. There you can hear it a little more. It's it muffles over the, it tames the high end a bit, but it also adds this deeper growl to it. hear it more when I'm playing on the higher strings. So the other thing I was messing around with besides that cap is just putting LED as clipping diodes on the output, and I have a switch that, you know, has one way clips the positive half of the wave, and the other way clips the negative half of the way, and they're very similar, but they're definitely different. And the main thing that they do is they kind of compress the sound more than, you know, adding to the distortion. So I'll go back and forth. Here, on there you can hear it's like the volume comes down a bit and it like pulls out this like almost like mid-rangey kind of thing. Here, that's without it. Whoops, I think I put it the wrong way. And then the other way. Sorry, hold on. Okay. And then with that cap back in to give it. So, those are just some things I was, I was thinking like maybe I should just add a couple toggle switches to it, you know, so that it's, I mean, then it's really, I mean, it's still a one knob fuzz, but it's not really a one knob fuzz because you have toggle switches, you have other controls, you know, and the idea that, you know, the thing that I liked so much about this was like it, you know, most of the time when I've tried to come up with a one knob bass fuzz, I've been like, yeah, but you trying to balance out that high end, you know, that you get when you start fuzzing out things and pushing stuff like that, you know, it's you often, I don't know, for me, I always feel like it needs some control to tweak that, you know, when it's for a bass or something. There's always been something I'm like, you know, I think I need another knob on here or another whatever. But this, it just has this sound and it's tonally balanced enough where it's like you hear, you know, those upper harmonic texture thing going on, but they're kind of rounded over without being muffled, and you know, it really, you know, it works well. And really, I mean, you know, it's half fuzz and half overdrive, which is kind of Phil's Pappalardi sound. It's like, you know, it is overdrive because he's overdriving his amp, but it pushes into that weird realm of, you know, fuzz with like the weird harmonics and stuff that, you know, are happening. So yeah, so if, those of you who don't know Mountain or his, you know, playing, should really go and check it out because it's so good. Like his songwriting's really good too. Like amazing songwriter. He wrote stuff for Cream. Wrote stuff for a lot of. He had an involvement with a Japanese band called Creation, which I guess were Blues Creation at first. But yeah, his playing, his singing's awesome too. I love his singing voice. Um, but yeah, I mean, and really any mountain record, the only record I don't really dig too much is Flowers of Evil. Just I don't know, like the songs just don't do it for me. But you know, anything that the first album, which is like Leslie West Mountain, it's kind of his record, but it's Mountain. But I don't know how it's listed actually, but that album is incredible. That's the album that got me into Mountain. It's like really dark and like brooding and just like mean and doomy and very like just like simple bluesy stuff. It's not like Nantucket Sleigh Ride where it's like this amazing uh concept epic thing going on. But yeah, Climbing, awesome album. Like I said, Nantucket Sleigh Ride is incredible. It's just amazing. The live album, the Road Goes Ever On, is incredible. That's like some of the best bass sounds I've ever heard, on any record. It's just like Crossroader is just like, it's like it's so like out front. I think some of the sound you're hearing on that might be the organ too, but I feel like the organ is doing like more like orchestral sounding stuff. And then there's this epic live version of Nantucket Sleigh Ride that I could like listen to like again and again and again, in the same sitting. It's just incredible. And yeah. And then there's another live record called Twin Peaks, and that's good. That's like they like broke up and then got back together, and there's actually another guitarist playing on that, and the bass sound on there is even crazier than the other ones. It's like that really sounds like he's playing through a fuzz. It's like I can't just be an amp. But and then there's see, this is what happens with freaking cell phones picking up. Anyway, the album that they made after they got back together, called Avalanche, which is what I think I should call this, is amazing. Like the songs, it's like a little different than the other albums in a way, but it's very much like Leslie West's songs and Felix Pappalardi's songs, and they're both great. But the Felix Pappalardi songs on there, every single one is killer and unique, and it's awesome. So yeah, any Mountain album really. And then even there's West Bruce and Lang, all the just the different. There's a live album with those guys too. Anyway, I'm gonna go because I'm just gonna keep talking about Mountain and stuff. So yeah, I just wanted to, I don't know, do this little video, see if anyone gives a crap about some of the process. So yeah, if you guys anyone is interested in one of these, this one's already sold, but if you want one, just let me know. I think I'm gonna sell them probably for like $95 plus shipping. That's what I'm thinking now. That's how much that one I sold. So, and yeah, you might be able to convince me to put these switches on it and have it be one knob plus switches fuzz. All right, thanks guys.